The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of excellence. So get ready, nerds, because we're talking not Austin Powers, Mike Myers movies. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast, the best comedy podcast on the internet, available everywhere where you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all the places. I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Vader's here. What's up, dude?
Oh, dude, how you doing?
I'm on like 6 energy drinks
Six
and
energy
rum.
drinks? Whoa, that's pretty cool.
Actually, it's like 2.5. Yeah. What's up, dude?
I don't know. Can you imagine like a Garth on Red Bull?
No.
That'd be pretty awesome, right?
Well, he was on Jolt Cola.
It's too many Jolt Colas, man.
She's like, I can't imagine why anybody would just sell out like that. Excellent.
It's the choice of a new generation.
I love that kind of humor. It's so fun.
Dude. I'm also joined by Jude.
Oh, hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm so excited. I'm going to hurl.
Oh my God.
If you're going to spew
in this.
Little, yellow, different.
I'm surprised you didn't go full Garth hair today and just like do like a frizz job on your...
It didn't even occur to me.
We need to do a suck cut on her.
Where's Vader's blonde wig? Bro.
Oh, that would have been good.
That would have been good for today.
Yeah.
Maybe
Jude
Let's
can go
start
grab it.
over.
Yeah, no. Please, God, no.
Maybe.
Let's do the blonde wig ending.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo
Bad
ending.
idea. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we could. We could edit that together.
I think I have enough blonde wigs for all of us. We can definitely do a
No
blonde
shit?
wig ending.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. That's going to be fun. All right. I'm also joined by the producer of the show, Matthew Gage. Welcome.
So this was my week. I chose these movies, and I had so much fun because I love these movies. I love, like, Wayne's World is one of my all-time favorite comedies. So I Married an Axe Murderer is, I think, like a overlooked comedic classic.
Yes. It's a lot like Star Trek, The Next Generation. In many ways, it's superior, but will never be as recognized as the original.
It's still good in its own way. So
Wayne's World 2 has a Jurassic Park reference.
Yes.
I know.
like when that scene came up, I turned to Jude. I was like, Alex is going to love this movie.
It's just about the only part of that movie that I actually liked.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
This is a rough week for me, man.
You didn't like the kung fu fighting?
Had you seen...
No, this is a
second one
first
before?
watch.
This is
First watch for all
okay.
three.
I mean,
Wow.
Yeah. I hadn't... Go ahead.
as I say, I'm kind of with you. These I don't really think these movies are that good, but they're fun.
They're goofy. Yeah.
And
First one's good.
I feel like I needed a kind of a light week. You know what I mean? I just needed
Palate cleanser.
A palate cleanser week. Exactly. That's exactly what I needed. I've had a rough month, man. It's been a long month.
Yeah,
and
you've been moving.
I've had too much shit going on, and it was nice to just be able to like sit down and watch movies that I've seen multiple times before, and just kind of like remember the awesomeness that Wayne and Garth are.
I think it's funny that you think that this was a light week when all of you were texting each other like, God damn it, there's a lot of similarities between the podcast
Oh, Jesus.
and Wayne's World.
Dude.
Are we Wayne and Garth?
No, we are. We absolutely are.
I had like a freaking existential crisis when I was watching this movie. I'm like, oh my God, I can't sell out. I don't want sponsors. Don't give me no Dragon Champions. Go to saltynerddc.com. It's fucking like all that
like
shit.
Every single one of us like sent a text to each other. It's like, dude, we are fucking Wayne's World. It's like,
Does that mean I'm Rob Lowe?
Yeah, you are Rob Lowe. I didn't want to like insult you, but the whole time I was thinking, I'm like,
oh yeah,
oh no,
I'd really just like to be able to do the show for
full
a living.
time.
Do it full time.
Maybe
And I'm
we
like,
should introduce the
what
show
is going
first.
on?
Let's do it.
All right, so obviously the movies that we're going to talk about today are Wayne's World, Wayne's World 2, and So I Murdered... God damn it, how
So
can
I
I not
Murdered
get
an
that?
Axe
So I
Murderer?
Murdered an Axe Murderer. So I Married an Axe Murderer. These are Mike Myers movies. We chose not to do the Austin Powers thing because I think that's going to be like its own week. So we wanted to do Mike Myers the right way and just have his like classic old school comedies that he did before Austin Powers. So it's gonna be a ton of fun. So thank you guys for joining us. The first movie on our list, of course, the classic Wayne's World. Before we get into it, we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna drink a little bit more of my energy drink with rum, which is gonna be crazy. And we'll dive right into Wayne's World.
It's Wayne's World! Wayne's World! Party time! Excellent!
Welcome back, everybody. If you guys would like to support the podcast and download an awesome free mobile game, go to saltynerd.com/DC and download Dragon Champions. And here's my call to action. So we're trying to get 10 people to sign up for our, what is it called? A clan? What do you guys?
Guild?
A guild. Thank you.
Are we doing a thing?
Yeah, we're doing a thing.
We're doing a call to action?
So, yeah, call to action. So I
Okay.
need 10 people. I need 10 people to join our guild on the Salty Nerd Dragon Champions. I'm sorry, I'm so not involved in this. Vader, why don't you take it away?
Yeah.
I would like to make an announcement just really quick. This week, just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I dinged level 60.
Whoa,
60. So I'm getting
He's
closer.
coming for you,
I'm coming
Kaden.
for you, bro. I'm coming for you, man. So,
It's like a WWE bit. I'm fucking coming for you.
so, you know, listen, in these kind of games, anytime you can ding a level with a 0 on the end of it, it's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah, right?
So, you know, for me, it is anyway.
Dragon.
Yeah, it's level
Shout out
60.
for you know who you are.
Kadish, what is Dragon Champions and why should people download it?
So Dragon Champions is a free-to-play hero collector game, and it's basically kind of in the vein of World of Warcraft, where it's a fantasy game, and the goal is to unlock as many of the different heroes as you can and upgrade them and use them to complete like quests and do raids and fight against other players and all that good stuff. And I've been playing it since launch. It's a lot of fun. You don't need to spend any money to play the game. It's free to download. It's free to play. But if you use our promo code SALTY, SALTY, you get a free starter pack that gives you like some gold and some character shards and like a bunch of other stuff to help get you going. And it also gives us some credit with the people who run the game so they know that the Salty Nerd sent you. But if we can get 10 people to use that code and sign up for our guild, we'll be off to the races, because we do have a Salty Nerd guild in the game. Vader, what do they have to search for to find it?
Salty Nerd Podcast. One word.
Yeah, so it's the Salty Nerd Podcast Guild. And basically, when you join our guild, it's just a way for us to kind of communicate with one another, because we have guild chat in there. And we can also do raids together and all that good stuff.
So I'm level 14, which is
Good
awesome.
for you.
Thank you so much.
That's really good.
I'm really working my way up there. I have 540,000 dragon coins. I don't know how I got those.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that
I
cool?
don't believe it.
Baller.
No, right? I could buy all of the armor. I'll be level 20 in no time. No, but yeah, you guys can sign up for Dragon Champions to help support the podcast. All right. So the first movie on our list today, Wayne's World,
Yes.
the original. Jude, take it away.
All right.
Wayne's World.
Excellent.
Wayne's
Party
World.
Party time. Excellent. Okay.
Your eyes are all glassy.
I'm
and
glazed.
shit.
I'm totally glazed.
All right, let's
Like
get into
the
this.
donuts at Makita's.
Yeah, like I'm glazed like a Makita's donut right now.
Take it away, Jude.
1992, Wayne's World, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour 34 minutes. This had a budget of $20 million. What do you think this brought into the box office, gentlemen?
Jesus. $112 million.
Alex?
$82 million.
$183 million.
Damn.
This was a huge
Huge
hit.
hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? Was Mike Myers famous already?
So here's the thing, man.
No, this
I
was
think
this was Mike Myers' first movie. Actually.
Yeah.
His
and this
first
was,
mo-
But this
So-
was a Saturday Night Live movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like what, 8 when this movie came out?
What year is it?
92.
No, I was younger than that.
Were you younger? So here's the thing, man. Wayne's World on Saturday Night Live. This was probably, with the exception of maybe the Chevy Chase years of Saturday Night Live, this was peak SNL.
Yeah.
This people like
People
me,
loved Wayne's
me and my
World.
wife, we watched SNL every week just for Wayne's World. It was huge. It was a
Okay.
huge thing back then, and it was super fun, man. And when they come out with the movie, it was like, all right, we're gonna get 90 minutes of a Wayne's World skit. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, also, like the trailer for this movie, like if you weren't aware of like Saturday Night Live and Wayne's World, like the trailer for this movie was so funny
Mm-hmm.
that everyone was like really jazzed to see it. And when it came out, it just blew
Yeah.
up. Like
Yeah.
people were just went crazy. Like I must have seen this thing like 5 times in the theater.
Yeah.
All right, excellent promo, Wayne.
Yes, artistic yet accessible to a wide audience.
I was obsessed with it, and it's still one of my all-time favorite comedies.
Would you like to know what it's about?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right. In the far-off land of Aurora, Illinois, local celebrities Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar have big champagne wishes and caviar dreams of getting paid to do the show they love. When Rob Lowe shows up with 10 grand in a contract, they immediately sign up to get exploited. Wayne's girlfriend Cassandra has a band that really wails, and when Rob Lowe catches sight of her, he decides to give the band their big break, setting up a video shoot for them in Chicago. When Wayne and Garth learn their producer wants to make changes to the show, Alex passive-aggressively takes matters into his own hands, embarrassing the show's sponsor on air. Kadish then fires Wayne in the middle of the show, leaving Jude and Vader to finish the show on their own. Feeling abandoned and like they sold out, Wayne and Garth must figure out how to take back control of their show and the futures of the Salty Nerd podcast and get Cassandra out of the hands of Snaky Snake, Rob Lowe. Discuss.
Yeah.
How did I do?
You did pretty good. You did pretty good.
I'm watching this. So like, I've seen bits of this movie. I don't think I can actually say that I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing until this week, right? So I've sat down, I watched Wayne's World from start to finish. About a quarter of the way through, I'm like, oh my God, this is me.
This is us.
It's us. It's me.
Yeah.
I can see all the parallels and the similarities and like the mindsets of like, I just want to do my thing and get paid for it, man, and have a good time. And then like the business aspect of it just looms over it like a dark cloud. And
Here's
it's like,
a shit.
Yeah.
Sell me your soul.
$5,000.
We got $5,000.
We got
$5,000.
and he goes and buys a fucking Fender guitar. And I'm like, I want that guitar too.
And the licorice machine for his stupid car.
The Mirthmobile.
Dude,
Yes.
I legit like
I
started.
was like, I should get some flames put on my Yaris.
Yeah. I have to admit, every time I see your little weird car, I'm like, what the fuck?
This little hamster mobile. Oh God.
The little pedals.
It should be blue. If it was blue, it would literally be the Garth
It
mobile.
never occurs to me how tiny my car is until like one of you has to get in it with me. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, my car's really small.
You know what your car needs? A gun rack.
It's right, a gun rack.
It does. I actually do own guns though, so that would I could take off the bike rack that I never use and put on the gun rack.
That would be
Yeah.
dope.
So there's actually a scene in this movie where Laura Flynn Boyle, who plays Wayne's ex-girlfriend,
Stacy.
the psycho hose beast,
Oh, yeah.
she gifts Wayne a gun rack in order to try to lure him back to her. And that's actually based off a true story of Mike Meyers, who had a girlfriend who gave him a gun rack for a gift to try to like mend fences and get back together. and so a lot of the stuff that Stacy does in this movie is actually autobiographical.
Dude, that chick was so creepy.
Yeah.
Super creepy.
It's like,
Wayne.
it's like, I don't own a gun, much less many guns, which would necessitate a gun rack.
A whole rack.
Funny.
And then she's like, you don't like it? Fine.
You're gonna lose me someday, Wayne.
This is just a
ahead.
little side story. I made a gun rack once in
Made?
school. I made a gun rack. That exact
Shop
same gun
class?
rack in shop class. It's like you could make when I was in junior high. It was when we were done building when we were done making the teachers' paddles for the year. You could make a cutting board to give to your mom for forever, or a gun rack to give to your dad, which he would use forever. Right.
Right.
I made a gun rack.
Nice.
And it was the exact same gun rack. It was just one of those really weird things.
So
Having gifted a gun rack, I feel her pain. So yes.
So real quick, because this is one of my all-time favorite movies, I know a lot about the making of it, and I just wanted to kind of set the stage here. So basically, in the early 90s, Lorne Michaels, who's the producer of Saturday Night Live, he got a development deal with Paramount Studios, like a movie deal. And so because Wayne's World was one of the most popular sketches on Saturday Night Live, he went to Mike Myers and he was like, hey, how would you like to turn Wayne's World into a movie? And Mike Myers was like, excuse me? Sure. So Mike Myers teamed up with like 2 staff writers on Saturday Night Live to write Wayne's World. And they started getting it produced. And it was kind of funny because Paramount like basically didn't think that this movie was going to ever amount to anything. And so they basically just like didn't interfere and like left them alone and let them do like their own thing. And Lorne Michaels hired Penelope Spheris to direct this movie. And she had done like a lot of like documentary work in the past, but this was like her first like big feature film. And she had been like a friend of Lorne Michaels for a long time. And so he wanted to give a female filmmaker like her big break. And so basically, it was kind of a weird situation because Mike Myers was notoriously difficult to work with. He's kind of like they called him like the Marlon Brando of comedians because like he was like he's just like so like this is how I want things done. And
Really?
if you're
My
not
vision.
if you're not on board, like I'm going to fight you on it. And so him and Dana Carvey, they weren't actually like very good friends, and they were constantly kind of like competing with one another to be funnier. And so like there was like this weird rivalry between the two of them. And Penelope Spheris was also constantly butting heads with Mike Myers over like, you know, what's funny and what isn't, and, you know, what needs to be in the movie and what shouldn't be. And so it was a very kind of like chaotic shoot. And add to that, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Rob Lowe, who plays like the bad guy in this movie.
Oh, is this when his sex tape came out?
Yeah, so like he was in the middle of a sex scandal when this thing came out.
There's a sex tape of Rob Lowe out there.
Oh, you child. You sweet little innocent man.
He's the dude from Parks and Rec. I don't know.
Speaking of child, that's what the sex tape was.
Yeah, so like he was having sex with a 16-year-old on
Oh,
tape.
he went full freaking mall rats on that.
This was a huge thing back then.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, like so like Rob Lowe's like star was like on the rise because he was part of that like Brat Pack
Yeah.
group. And this tape came out of him at 24 years old having sex with a 16-year-old, and it was like a huge scandal. And it looked like his career was pretty much over. Like everyone was like, you know, like Rob Lowe is like radioactive.
So now he just plays scumbags.
Well, the funny thing was like Lorne Michaels saw this and he was like, you know what? I bet we could get Rob Lowe really cheap. and so like they went to him and because he was like radioactive, he was like, okay, yeah, I'll take this role. And he actually credits this movie with saving his career because after this, he kind of rebranded himself as a comedic actor and got that role in Parks and Rec and stuff like that based off of like his
You
performances.
look
in this
shocked,
movie.
Alex. Are you
He
okay?
does. He really
This is
does.
news to me
How
about
could you
Rob
not
Lowe.
know this?
I don't know. I love Rob Lowe. He's funny in
It's
everything.
like his character is defined by this sex scandal.
No clue.
Wow, that's wild.
Before my time, bro. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
guess.
Like, I know him from The Outsiders. He was young in that one, and then I know he popped in. He was very, very popular. He was a heartthrob back in the day, but it was like it went. My knowledge of Rob Lowe goes Outsiders, Parks and Rec. There's like a 30-year gap.
There's a lifetime of information in those years.
He got canceled before social media. So
Wow.
Yeah.
it was wild.
That's crazy.
It was
That's literally the
everywhere.
plot of Mallrats for Ben Affleck's character.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's bananas.
Yeah, and it was funny because before Wayne's World, the only movie that was ever made based off of an SNL sketch was The Blues Brothers. And so,
What about Coneheads?
well, that came out
After
after
this,
Did it?
this, yeah.
Oh.
So like Blues Brothers was the only Saturday Night Live movie to come out based off of a sketch. And when this movie kind of came out, it's the only Saturday Night Live movie to ever gross more than $100 million. Like this movie was a ginormous hit, and it was just it kind of set the stage for the formula for taking like a short form sketch comedy and turning it into a feature film. And it's kind of funny when you watch it and compare it to like Wayne's World 2, because of the difficulty that Mike Myers had with Penelope Spheris. He basically said, I don't want to work with this woman again. And so like she didn't return for the sequel. It was a different director. And you can tell that like Spheris was partially responsible for how good this movie turned out, just based off of like her kind of innate filmmaking ability. And I think like that conflict made Wayne's World 2 not quite as good. Like there's other stuff that goes into Wayne's World 2's story, which I can't wait
We'll
to tell you
get
guys
there.
about.
Yeah,
but,
we'll get there in a minute.
But I love this movie. And it was weird watching it being like, yeah, I relate to Wayne and Garth. Like,
I know, right?
like
Yeah.
mirroring our
On a
struggle.
whole different level.
I hadn't even thought about it until, I immediately went there.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
That's
like,
literally us. We're in like
Yeah.
our basement.
Them at Gasworks is like us at the conventions.
Yeah, right. Or the donut shop is us at Grouchy John's.
Exactly.
Like, it's the same shit.
Yeah. Vader is Ed O'Neill.
I really wish JJ was like Ed O'Neill. Or he, at a certain point, Ed O'Neill, who plays the manager of the local donut shop, he just hijacks the soliloquy, and he's like, "Why is it when you kill a man in war, it's called heroic, but when you kill him in a
In the heat of passion,
it's called murder." And Wayne just pops in, and he's like, "Hey, I'm the only one who gets to talk to the camera."
Yeah.
Did
What
you
are you
know
doing,
that if
man?
you stab a man in the dead of winter, steam escapes his body? The Indians thought
We
it was
could-
their soul.
We could totally do like a little mock-up Wayne's World thing where we
yeah.
just go to like the coffee shop and do some goofy shit.
Well, what's funny to me about it's like I haven't watched this movie in a long time, right? I had forgotten how much of this movie has gotten into our society and our culture, like just the way we say things.
It was funny because
you know?
Alex texted us and he's like, "Did The Office steal the that's what
Yeah.
she said joke from this movie?"
There was
And we
this-
were like, "Yeah."
There was a scene in this movie where Mike Myers goes like, "That's what she said," or was it Garth? I can't remember which one it was, but one of them says like, "That's what she said," and I was like, "Oh my god."
Garth is holding a sign and he says, "Hey, are you almost finished? I'm tired of holding it."
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, "That's what she said," and I'm like, "Oh my god, freaking The Office stole that."
Yes.
Yeah, the Steve Carell character in The Office was a big fan of Wayne's World, and so
Yeah.
like he just like stole that joke.
That's amazing.
It's so
There's
easy to
like
use.
so many connections that I had no idea to this movie. Like it's the cultural significance of this movie is way more than I thought.
What
it was.
was funny is like the most iconic scene in this movie is when they're in the Mirthmobile
Yep.
and they start headbanging to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
And when this movie came out, like Queen was actually like on the decline, like it was uncool to like Queen. And Lorne Michaels wanted them to use a Guns N' Roses song in that scene. And Mike Myers was like, "No, I want to use Queen because when I was a kid growing up in Canada, we used to headbang to that song.
Oh, yeah.
And so like it's important to have that in the scene." And Lorne Michaels is like, "Kid, I'm trying to make your movie a hit. We got to put Guns N' Roses in there." And Mike Myers was like, "If you put Guns N' Roses in that scene, I quit. I will walk away." And Lorne Michaels was like, "Okay, geez, you can use Queen." And it was kind of funny because in that scene, so first of all, if you watch Dana Carvey, like he doesn't know the lyrics to the song, so he's just kind of like, he's just kind of like mouthing the words. But the thing is like they had to like shoot that scene so many times where they start headbanging that the actors were getting like
You can
neck
tell
issues.
because they're just kind of like rocking back and forth instead of headbanging.
And that was one of those scenes where like Penelope Spheris was telling them like, "Look, we need to keep doing this in order to get it right." And Mike Myers was like, he got to the point where he was like in so much pain where he was like, "This isn't even funny anymore. Like I hate this scene. Like we don't need to do this." And so like they had like a big back and forth over that scene. And it's kind of funny because later on in the movie, like you see like Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, they're literally turning their entire upper bodies because their necks are so stiff from having like shot that scene.
Yeah.
It's really funny. But that scene, more than anything, is basically giving credit for the resurgence of interest in Queen. And also it's the most iconic, like me and all my friends, like whenever we heard Bohemian Rhapsody from that point on, you start
headbanging.
Everybody headbangs.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny when Rob Lowe presents the Wayne's World show to like the big producer guy, and he's sitting there and he's watching it and he's like, "Why do people like this?" And they're like, "This is all the rage with the
you
kids,
mean the
man."
advertiser.
Yeah, the advertiser guy.
Yeah, Bill Murray's brother, actually.
That's Bill Murray's brother?
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
Get right out of town.
he's super famous. He's in like a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
Brian Doyle Murray.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I had no idea that they were related.
See it now, huh?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, it's funny because him and Kurt Fuller are also in Ghostbusters 2. So like he plays Bill Murray's brother plays the psychiatrist in Ghostbusters 2, and Kurt Fuller plays the smarmy mayor's aide. But what's funny is when we were watching this, so like Kurt Fuller, his character Russell is like kind of like Rob Lowe's lackey. He's like the producer of the Wayne's World show, and he keeps wearing these like weird tracksuits throughout the movie. And at one point, he's wearing a tracksuit, and I turned to Jude. I was like, "Is he wearing the same tracksuit as Nice Guy Eddie in Reservoir Dogs?" And it turns out he is. And
wow.
Exactly.
Reservoir Dogs came out the same year as this movie, and they're both wearing that tracksuit.
I wonder what store that was available in, where they just went down to the place.
It's like this weird, like green neon tracksuit.
Yeah.
What can we put this character in? I got this tracksuit.
I wish I could quote more of this movie, but I just haven't seen it enough to really like punch out some good funny quotes. But
it's funny how many like cameos are in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of famous
like
people.
Meatloaf is the bouncer at the
Chris
gas
Farley.
works. Chris Farley's there. Yeah.
Chris Farley's been popping into a bunch of movies we watched recently, like Airheads and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god, it's Chris
He was
Farley.
huge in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I just, again, this movie, like the comedy of it didn't really strike me as being the best part, but like just the parallels to like my own universe. And I just couldn't get over it. I'm like, oh my, and it's literally like my biggest fear about doing this goofy little podcast is like selling out to a bunch of freaking producers and sponsors and shit like that. And
I'm not going to let those network people tell me what the fuck to do.
I'm not going to jail for you or anyone.
Having that creative like control taken away from me because it's not going to make the sponsors happy. Like I'm literally sitting here like, oh my God, I can't let that happen. Like it's so weird watching
When
it.
you talk about the product placement scene,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah,
That was well. They're all like Garth is wearing like full on like Reebok everything, and he's like, I just don't understand why anybody would do that.
yeah.
Well,
Drink some Coke.
it's probably the most brilliant product placement scene in any movie ever made.
Yeah.
And it's basically like, so Wayne and Garth are having a argument with Rob Lowe's character about about sponsorships and being kind of like forefront in the show.
Yeah.
And they walk over to like
Selling out.
they walk over to a table that has like Pizza Hut and Pepsi and like
Doritos.
all this stuff. And as Mike Meyers is making his argument against product placement sponsorships,
Literally eating Doritos. While he's doing it.
they keep like very prominently showcasing like all the corporate sponsors for the
And
movie.
writing all of the dialogue around it.
Yeah.
It's so clever and so funny. And it was the first time anybody had done that.
Oh, Talladega Nights totally ripped all of that off.
Yeah.
Like watching this now, and I'm like, oh, that's where Talladega Nights came.
Yeah.
If you don't chew Big Red, the Q. It's like,
Well, the funniest part is, so like with the Nuprin ad where like Meyers is like, all this argument's giving me a headache, and Garth comes into frame
and he shakes the little bottle of
and he's
aspirin.
like, "Hey, take 2 of these." and like at the time, the Nuprin commercials were like in black and white, and the only thing that had color was like the pills.
Pills, yeah.
And so like they actually cut to a black and white shot with like the yellow pills. And it's like Nuprin, little, yellow, different.
Yeah, dude.
And then like they use like at the time the Pepsi slogan was like, Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
Oh gosh, brilliant stuff. Really,
Yeah,
really
it was
funny.
funny.
It's because
I love the scene when within this scene where they pan up to Garth and he's completely in Reebok?
Yeah.
Shoes, pants, hat,
the
everything.
jacket,
and he's
yeah.
like, it's like people only do stuff because they get paid.
Yeah.
And that's just really sad. And it's so funny.
And there are actually a lot of Star Trek references in Wayne's World because like they were produced by Paramount, which owned the Star Trek license at the time. I think there were like at least 3 Star Trek references in this one and 2 in the sequel.
there's a whole like boldly go quote that happens in this movie. I
And
remember
then on the
watching.
balcony when they're like, yeah, it's just like, Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Star Trek, The Next Generation. In many ways, it's superior, but will never be as recognized as the original.
It's funny, dude. Yeah, but
And they sing the theme song to the original
they
series.
do. Yeah, he's whistling the theme song. That's not okay. Yeah, I remember that. He's on the hood of the car. It's a good damn movie. It's really funny.
You
It's
ever
very
gone to the
clever.
airport and stood on the hood of your car and
Yeah.
go, whoa,
Yeah.
when the jet flies over?
Yeah.
Wayne's World did it first.
I know, right?
And then there's that great scene where like Garth is like telling off Wayne, and like the engine noise from the plane just like drowns out everything.
Yeah,
And
it
it
cuts
cuts over
everything
like Wayne's just like, kissed your mother with that mouth.
My God, the jumpsuit's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about this movie.
Well, what
It's
what don't you not like about this movie?
I'm surprised Alex got any of the humor from this movie.
It is a little.
because he usually
not
doesn't
all of
understand
it.
comedy.
Not all of it. A lot of it was like, oh my God, so cringy. Like there was a lot of cringy shit, especially with Garth when he was dealing with girls. Like anytime that Garth would get around a girl and he did his goofy like, I don't know what that
I don't know what I'm doing.
Like, oh my God. Like that was
Did you know Garth's dream woman was Dan Aykroyd's wife?
No.
go Dan Aykroyd.
She's gorgeous.
No, I did not know that. But no, it's just that kind of stuff didn't really strike me as funny. I don't think I like Garth all that much. I think Wayne is way funnier. Garth is more of an annoying character, but I don't really like that actor all that much. Like,
Dan
I'm
Carvey?
Do you like Dana Carvey?
I've seen him in other movies, and I'm just like, he's not my humor, man.
Yeah.
I just don't get him. Like, I think if this was just a Garth movie, I would not like any of it. But because Mike Myers is in it, he kind of adds a special element that makes it funnier. And then the parallels to like what we do here really set this movie over the bar. Because besides the Jurassic Park reference, I really didn't like the second one at all. So I think there's a clear definition between the two for me. But I don't know, man. Some of it went over my head. Rob Lowe's funny. Because I like him, but now knowing the history of why he's in this movie kind of freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, I probably should. Like,
Sorry we ruined Rob Lowe for
yeah, you kind of did. Kind of popped the bubble on that one.
Do
But
you
I
want
don't
to
know.
talk about Cassandra and her band, that Wails?
Oh my gosh, she's freaking gorgeous.
I want to talk about the shitty Beatles.
They suck.
So it's not just a clever name.
Go ahead, you guys. This is all your movie, man. You guys take it
yeah,
away.
Carrera,
What's,
man.
what's Cassandra's band name?
Crucial Tom.
Crucial Tom.
Crucial Tom.
Yeah, they wail.
They
Is
do
it-
well.
What's your band's name again? Was it Self-Inflicted
Self-inflicted
Wounds? Oh man.
You know, Tom and I used to go to trivia every week, and one time we named our trivia because you have to name your team. And one time we named our team Crucial Taunt. And we were like, nobody's gonna get that, and like everybody was like, "That's an awesome name." We were like, "We're such nerds.
We're super nerdy.
Yeah, but
good stuff.
it's great because you know. So Tia Carrere, this was like the first movie I think anyone ever remembers her from, and she plays like
Not Call the Conqueror."
Yeah.
That's insane.
So she plays Wayne's love interest, and every time like he sees her, like you hear Dreamweaver and there's like all this Broadway stuff.
So my favorite bit in this movie is when he learned how to speak Cantonese.
Oh, yeah.
To hit on her.
Sings up into wild.
Yeah, and he's like talking to her. He's like, "Oh, I don't know all that much. I just started learning the other day." And he goes on and has like a full on like conversation with her about like really deep topics.
About Stacy, who's behind them making out with some other guy.
And at a certain point, he just stops talking, lets the subtitles go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that humor was really funny. I liked it when he was talking to her dad too.
yeah.
That's in the next one.
No, it's in both.
Is it?
No,
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No.
the dad's not introduced until the second one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm getting
my
confused.
movies confused
Me too.
too.
Well,
I thought he was in this one.
3 shots
Yeah.
deep.
Anyway, so Vader, you got to tell me, man. Like, what growing up, you watch this movie all the time? Was it as influential to you as it was?
I
to
don't
other
know if
people?
it was influential, but I remember it had a huge impact on just society and how we talked, and you know, we everybody used the taglines from the jokes in everyday life, you know, and it was just one of those movies that everybody watched and everybody thought was fun and enjoyed. So it had an effect. You know, like I said, everybody watched Saturday Night Live back then for Wayne's World. And on the nights that it was Saturday Night Live was on and there was no Wayne's World, people were mad. It's like, man, no Wayne's World last night. What the hell, you know? So yeah, it was just one of those things.
I had no idea this was
Everybody's like, oh man, she's a mega babe.
Schwing.
That bass is a babe.
Oh yeah, every like teenage boy was going around going swing, 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 swing.
It's very inappropriate.
Yeah.
My boss asked me, he's like, "So what are you talking about this week on the show?" And I'm like, "Oh, Wayne's World." And he's like, Schwing. And I was like, "What the fuck?" It's weird, man.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this movie is like it's so well put together. So the whole beginning of this movie, you're introduced to Wayne's world, where him and his friends go around Aurora, and they show you like, you know, the clubs they go to and the donut shop everyone hangs out at and all this other stuff. And they introduce you to the characters that are kind of like in the Wayne sphere, and it's just like they set the stage for the world so perfectly.
And I loved like the feel of the like documentary style that they do.
Oh,
that
breaking the fourth wall the whole time.
Yeah. So like this thing was kind of like revolutionary at the time because like you have Wayne breaking the fourth wall and him and Garth are the only ones who can talk to the camera, even though other characters are like aware of the camera being there. And, you know, every scene in this movie has like a gag in it. Like there's a great scene where like Wayne just like opens the door and there's like all these guys training for like, you know, martial arts and infiltration. He's like, "What's in this room?" And Wayne's just like, "I don't know. I just always wanted to open a room where people were being trained to do spy stuff."
Wicked.
That's this week has also been an education on me on just how Mike Myers like cherry picked his best performances and put them in Austin Powers. It's like all week this week, I'm like, oh, that's an Austin Powers trope. Oh, that's like early fat bastard. Like there's all these cues that I'm like, okay, that's where that came from. And it's funny because I've never really dived into Mike Myers' like past work and stuff. It's Austin Powers. That's Mike Myers. Austin Powers and Shrek.
Yeah. What's funny is Wayne's World. So like it's based off this character, Wayne Algar. No, wait.
Wayne Campbell.
Wayne Campbell. Sorry, guys. Wayne Campbell that basically he made up when he was a teenager living in Canada with his friends, and it was just like this metalhead guy, right? And when he went into SCTV, which is like the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live, he brought this character with him, and this was like before Garth. It was just like Wayne, the metalhead guy, and he'd like go on there and he'd do his like Wayne shtick, and it was extremely popular. And when he jumped over to Saturday Night Live, he wanted to bring the character with him, and Lorne Michaels was like, you know, you need someone to play off of. And at the time, Dana Carvey was the most popular cast member, and so he teamed up Mike Myers.
Was he doing the church lady then?
He was doing the church lady and all that stuff,
President Bush.
and the Bush impression. And so he teamed up Mike Myers with Dana Carvey, and Dana Carvey based Garth off of his brother Brad. So like he's just doing an impression of his brother Brad. And for whatever reason, it worked, even though like Mike Myers was initially resistant to bringing on like, you know, a sidekick. But it ended up working out. And, you know, you really get the sense that like Wayne and Garth are like best friends forever and all that good stuff. And like this whole movie, like every gag in this movie, even though some of them are a little dated, it works. And I think this was actually the first movie, you know, speaking of parallels between this movie and our podcast, they do like callback humor to other movies. Like the biggest applause moment in this movie is when Robert Patrick shows up as the T-1000 and he's like, have you seen this boy? Like people in theaters lost their crap because Terminator 2 came out literally the year before this movie. And so like that was like a big thing, but like it still works today. You know, when you see Robert Patrick, you're like, oh God, that's the T-1000.
That's because that's like the best Terminator movie. Have we never done a Terminator week?
We haven't.
Oh my God, that needs to happen. I don't know what else to say. I'm kind of at a loss. I feel like I don't have the same connection that you guys do to this movie.
I had this soundtrack.
Did you really?
I played it
Oh, it was a good
constantly.
soundtrack.
Okay.
Yeah, they put Tia Carrere like doing the actual covers of these songs
Yeah.
on the soundtrack, and she wailed.
Oh,
She
that
did
was
well.
actually her singing?
Mhm.
Oh, that's even better.
And
Awesome.
in fact, Dana Carvey's drum solo in this movie is all him. Like they actually like that's him playing the drums.
that was a gag though, because he wasn't hitting.
Well,
the
the gag
likes
was that
to
it was
play.
really him.
so he did the sound, but in the scene though, he's not actually hitting the drums.
No, he really is.
No, I was watching it. I'm like, okay, there's
Well,
you
you-
can hear cymbals going off, and he's not actually touching any of the cymbals.
Watch it again.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. That can't be real.
I love that scene where Wayne goes into the guitar shop and it's just like no stairway.
Oh,
Denied.
dude, that's
Oh,
not
but
even.
that's
That's
a
a real
true thing.
thing. That's a real
It's
thing.
forbidden.
If you go into a
Yeah.
guitar center and start riffing on a guitar, some
Yeah.
overused song, they will
Kadish was like,
shut your shit down.
Kadish was like, I still don't get that joke. And I was like, it's not a joke.
No, that's-
that's a real thing.
for
and
real.
That's the joke.
There's forbidden riffs
Yeah.
that you cannot do when
Yeah.
you go to Guitar
And
Center.
it was like every musician who's ever walked into like a music store
Yeah.
has been told that. And
Yeah.
that's a legit
Legit thing. Yeah, you go in there, you start playing Stairway,
No
or
Stairway,
you start
man.
playing like Nirvana, you're
denied.
fucking done.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, why? Is it because it's so long? I'm like, no, because every musician goes in there and does
It's
that.
not just every
And
musician.
the
I get it.
staff is
Listen.
like, no.
It's literally every noob
Yeah.
who goes and
Yeah.
learns the guitar for the first week.
Yeah.
It's like 3 songs that you learn. You learn "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
Stairway to Heaven.
"Stairway to Heaven," and
Wonderwall.
then Wonderwall. Well, that's like 2 chords. And then there's one other one. What is it? Dun 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 dun. dun. What song is that?
Oh, that's from a band in high school. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the song, but there's like
Smoke on the Water.
"Smoke in the Water." Thank,
Thank you.
Yeah.
So speaking of music, we got to talk about Alice Cooper's cameo in this movie.
Yeah.
We are not worthy.
Because originally Mike Meyers wanted Aerosmith to do the cameo, and Aerosmith basically turned him down because they're like, we're not going to be in a stupid Saturday Night Live movie.
Actually showed up for the stupid sequel.
well, after like the first one grossed like $200 million, but so
Sellouts.
the funny thing is so like they got Alice Cooper to agree to do the cameo in this movie, and it is the greatest cameo in any comedy movie ever.
Millie Walker.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because like Alice Cooper showed up to do the cameo, and he thought he was just going to be up on stage like doing the songs, and when he found out they wanted him to actually like do lines, he was like, I don't act. And so like they gave him
do now.
yeah they gave him the script, and so like when you see him like doing the lines in this movie, it's basically like his first and only take, and he just like nailed it. But it's funny because Alice Cooper, you know, like when Wayne and Garth are trying to talk to him, he's actually like, that's a good point, Brad. Actually, actually they used to pronounce it Millie Walker,
Yeah.
which is Algonquin for the good land. You know, Wayne's like, does this guy know how to party or what?
You know what's funny is that Alice Cooper ended up having like a short-lived sitcom with Gene Wilder like after this came out because apparently the acting bug caught him and he's actually pretty good.
What were you gonna say, V?
I was going to say I appreciated that scene in particular because it reminded me. Well, I mean, a lot of this show reminds me of Saturday Night Live skits because that's basically what it is. It's just one long tacked together skit. But the Alice Cooper thing reminded me of how when they have people come on the show that aren't actors, they're musicians, and they kind of like slide them into a skit
Yeah.
on the show, and you can tell they're terrible actors, but they just make it work.
In this movie, it kind of fits though.
But yeah, that's why I was saying I
Yeah.
appreciate it because it works. It works fine, and it was
It's
good.
just because everybody else in the movie is so ludicrous.
Yeah.
That
And
when you have somebody who's actually trying to act in the scene, they come off as so much better than everybody else.
Yeah, and it leads right into the famous "We're not worthy,
Yeah.
we're not worthy" scene, and
It's like
That's another thing. Like everyone who are fans of this movie, like we're not worthy.
we're not worthy.
that's everywhere though. Like anytime
This movie starts.
This is
that.
what
I know. Obviously, I know that. Yeah. Now. But no, that's been a Wayne's World thing forever. Right? I know that where that came from, but it's just funny to like when people meet other famous people, you know, they always go, "Oh, we're not worthy." You know, it's like shit. We might as well just do that to David Tennant the next time he comes on, or David Hewlett.
The best part is when they start doing it to Alice Cooper. He just like puts his hand.
Yeah,
out, like, kiss the ring.
he feeds right into it. He's like, "Kiss my ring." It's so goofy.
I love it. And on their way to the Alice Cooper concert, they do like the Laverne and Shirley intro.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee.
Alex is all. I've never seen Laverne and Shirley.
It went over my head.
They did
Schmozzle?
they did the entire
Hopper Pfeffer
opening scene
Incorporated?
credits.
You guys are talking at the same time. What?
They did the entire opening credit scene to Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah. We're gonna do it.
No idea which I'm 34, guys.
Yeah, I know.
34.
God, you're frustrating sometimes. It's okay.
So another thing I really loved about this movie was the multiple different endings.
Yes.
And it was basically a takeoff of like, you know, for especially for comedies, they would film different endings and do test screenings to see like which ones did the best.
Like Clue. And did you recognize one of the cast members
Colleen
of Clue?
Camp?
Yes.
Yeah,
she was
she played Yvette in the movie.
yeah, she's the video game guy's wife.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so she played Mr. Vanderhoff in this movie, but she was the maid Yvette in Clue, the one who was like the fake French maid. And it was kind of funny, like seeing like the three different Clue endings, because they actually do like a Scooby-Doo ending, where one of the characters they introduce at the beginning of the movie is just like the local like amusements park owner. They unmask Rob Lowe, and it's like him underneath.
Has that guy just always been old?
Yes.
Like I've seen him in movies that came out like
That's
a couple of years ago, and he looks exactly the same. I was looking at it, I'm like, how? It's like Strickland. I was like, has he ever had hair?
I also love like Garth's plan to like broadcast Cassandra's performance to Mr. Big, where he's like, I'm going to bounce it off these satellites and all this other stuff. And then he's like, it's almost too easy.
He's got that stupid little computer in front of him.
Boy, that security guard was very informative.
Okay. I got completely hoodwinked by this first ending where like, they bounce this off the satellite. They send it to that one dude in the limo and he watches it. And then he shows up at the house and he's like, I came all the way here to say, I'm sorry, but I can't have you on my show. And I was like, that's a shitty ending.
and like Cassandra's like, you ruined my career, Wayne.
Yeah. I'm watching this. Like this is the first time. Again, I don't remember the end of this movie. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, this fucking movie's a bummer. What the hell? And then it like cuts to a completely different ending. I'm like,
the house
Like
burns
banging
down.
Rob Lowe, and she's like, last night was amazing.
And Rob Lowe's like, you didn't really think she'd end up with Wayne, did you? And then Wayne and Garth just kind of come out of nowhere and they're like, yeah, right. Like we did in the movie like that.
I do want to say it is a trope throughout both of these movies that Wayne is continually fucking Cassandra's career.
oh yeah.
He like just barges into her video shoot and he's like, come with me because I feel like you should. And she's like, okay. And like her whole band is just like, they're like, should we go too? Or?
And Wayne's like, you and I both know there's no film in this camera. And then like opens up and there's like tons of film.
She's legit on a shoot for a video for her band and she
he's-
just bails in the middle of it because Wayne said so.
Wayne is not a good boyfriend.
No, he's the worst.
He's the worst. He's clingy.
It gets even worse in the next one.
Yeah, he's clingy. He's insecure. Like it's funny in this one because everything kind of ends up okay, but in the second one,
And the next one, it's a problem.
yeah, he's the bad guy
Yeah.
for sure. Speaking of the second one, final thoughts on Wayne's World, the original Vader.
Oh, we grading and everything now?
Sure, yeah, go for it. Give me the grading.
Oh man. So I don't know how to grade this movie. It's
SNL
fun.
movie?
I guess it's a fun movie. It's a classic at this point. It broke some barriers, I guess. I mean, it was just it blew up Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, I guess, probably to a certain extent. A lot of tropes in this thing a lot of things that became tropes, I guess, right? A lot of cultural references and everything. It's fun. I had a good time watching it. Is it a good movie? I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm gonna just kind of put it somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna say maybe it's a 3.
Okay.
3 stars because you know, it's a fun movie to watch. But if I ever had to watch it again after today, I don't know if I'd care anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's an older movie now at this point, and a lot of the references now are dated, and but it's still funny. But like I said, to somebody like you, it's not as funny because you weren't there. I don't know how well this movie is aging.
I don't know
you know what I'm
if
saying?
I don't know if I would connect with this movie as much as I did if I wasn't doing this show.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the things that I love about this is how it kind of played on all the fears that I have creating my own show, you know, on, just up for free, basically hoping someday it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what Wayne's World is all about.
Yeah.
So that's why I connected to this movie. If it was not about that, or if I wasn't doing this show, I don't think I would like this, which is probably explains why I haven't really watched it that much since it's come out. Like, I mean, it's out there. It's been out there for a long time and I've never seen it, or I haven't watched the whole thing. So,
you know, I like the, I like the characters. I like all the metalhead dudes. You know, I knew some of these people growing up. You know, I didn't particularly enjoy a lot of the music. There was a lot of weird.
Garth's dog have the same haircut?
Yeah, same haircut.
No, it's Tina Turner dog.
Yeah,
which
is basically the same haircut.
Wow. Okay, sorry.
But anyway, yeah, it's a 3. It's a fun movie.
Okay,
it's a fun movie. It's a classic. Yeah.
Jude, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
I have to disagree. I don't think that you can line this up against like movies in general or comedies in general and have it fare well. So for me, I'm putting it in the realm of SNL movies. And SNL movies are kind of hit and miss. And I want to say that this is probably one of the most successful SNL movies ever. So in that realm, it's a 5-star movie.
Holy shit.
Against other SNL movies, against Coneheads, against Night at the Roxbury, this is a 5-star movie.
Against It's Pat.
Yeah. What's the Superstar?
So in the subcategory, All-Star, right? Is that the one where she puts her hands in her armpits?
Something
was that
like
an
that.
SNL thing?
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the subcategory of only SNL movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is top tier. Yeah. I mean, if you put it up against other comedies forever, it's not going to fare very well. And Vader's right in that respect. But if you put it in the category that it is, which is an SNL movie, this is top of the line.
Okay. Don't scrunch your nose at her.
How dare you, sir? I will rip that nose right off your goddamn face.
Do you hear that?
Watch the steam rise from your body in the dead of winter.
Okay, just final thoughts. Give it a rating.
So this movie, not only culturally, but, you know, from a Hollywood standpoint, was very significant. You know, there are a lot of gags in this movie that have worked their way into the cultural like fabric of our society, where like, you know, like that's what she said and Schwing and like all that stuff. It was very much a kind of like reflection of what was popular in the early 90s. There are some jokes that are a little bit dated, like the Grey Poupon joke and, you know, stuff like that. But overall, like there's not a single scene in this movie that I don't laugh at, especially like considering like how many times, like I must have watched this movie like 1 million times by now. And I'm always finding it funny. I'm always loving the characters. I'm always getting the references. And it really kind of set the stage for not only like Mike Myers style humor and this like kind of resurgence of absurdist humor, but it also kind of like created the formula for how you take a like, you know, 5-minute sketch bit and stretch it out into a movie and do so successfully. Now, Mike Myers was actually like, he gained a reputation of being hard to work with on this film. Like, I think that there was a story that Penelope Spheres talked about where like there was only margarine available at the craft service table instead of actual butter. And Mike Myers wanted butter for his bagel. And so he flipped the table over and threw like a big fit.
Get out of here. No way.
Yeah. This is coming from her. And so like she actually assigned her own daughter to be his personal assistant to like kind of babysit him. And this made her daughter hate her because like she was like,
I'm sure that's a shitty thing to do to your kid.
Yeah. And her and Mike Myers had a huge fight over like the final cut of this movie, and Mike Myers had all these things that he wanted changed and fixed, and Penelope Spheres was like, no, I'm the director, I get to say like how this movie ends up. And so like the movie that we see is a direct result of Penelope Spheres kind of like, you know, like her vision, I guess you could say. But it was really one of those things where it was Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, and Penelope Spheres who made this movie what it was. And because of that, I think like it works brilliantly. I think that like this is one of my all-time favorite comedies. I feel like this is a brilliant movie. It's set like I judge like classic films based off of how many times I can watch them and still be entertained. And this movie has never failed to entertain me. And because of that, I have to give it 5 Schwings out of 5. Like to me, like not just as an SNL movie, like this movie is legit, in my opinion, a classic. And so like I give it 5 stars.
You're all over the place.
Whoa.
Your taste in movies just
All right.
fucks with my head more and more every week.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5. I was right down the middle for me. Fist bump there, bud. Schwing. I don't know what the fuck you were doing. You're trying to touch my.
Can we do the ending where Kadish gives this movie a real score?
You didn't think we were gonna end the podcast like that, did you?
Fucking 5.
5 stars.
2 5s.
It's all right. So it's 2.5 star for movie for
What is
me.
wrong with you guys?
I don't know what they're on another planet, bro. They're freaking. That's cool, man. You guys do you?
Ribbed for her pleasure.
So stupid.
There's so many funny things in this movie. I don't see like how you could not give it a higher rating.
It's just it was fun, but I'm not gonna go back and watch it a million times. But I don't understand comedies. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like there's movies that I think are funny, but they're rarely like straight comedies. Yeah, it was fun. It was good. The parallels between us and them like kind of blew my mind, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I was like, oh my god, I have to have a conversation with Kadish. I should have called him like, oh, we can't do this.
As you're wearing your Reebok gear.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the whole point of that,
the choice of the future.
Buy our shirts.
Buy our merch, man.
well, the whole point of that scene is that like that's the reality, even though like they're claiming that they're not doing it or they're against it. They're really doing it hardcore, like worse than anyone.
So we're shilling for ourselves.
Yeah. We got the logos everywhere, all over the place. All right. That's it for Wayne's World, the first one. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about Wayne's World 2. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you want to support the podcast and join a fantastic community, go to saltynerdclub.com and join our club memberships on Patreon. There, you can get access to a ton of exclusive podcasts for every single month having to do with classic sci-fi. Right now, we're doing Stargate Atlantis. Before that, we did Eureka, and we also did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So there's a huge library of classic sci-fi reviews in our Patreon area. So head over to saltynerdclub.com and sign up for the Patreon. Our goal is to get to 100 subscribers. Right now, we're pretty close to 50, so we're almost halfway there. So if you can help us get to our milestone of 100, we'd really appreciate it. It's only $5 a month. Join up, and you get a ton of stuff in return. All right, the next movie on our list is Wayne's World 2. Jude, take it away.
1993, Wayne's World 2, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour, 35 minutes. This had a budget of $40 million, so double the last one. What do you think this brought in?
With as successful as the first one? 200 million. I don't know.
V?
200.
201 million.
$72 million. Not nearly as successful as the original.
Yeah, you want to know a big part of the reason that it underperformed is because Paramount, not only did they rush it out, but they wanted to put it in these Christmas movie season, and it was up against like so much competition that it just kind of got buried.
Ooh, what else came out in 93?
Schindler's List, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Pelican Brief, stuff like that.
Schindler's List won the
Oscar.
Academy Award.
Yeah.
Not comedies, though?
Like, not comedies.
It wasn't going up against any
but
other
like a lot of people don't want to see comedies in December. You know, they want to see like
The
serious
heartwarming.
movies. Yeah.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List was not heartwarming.
Well,
That's a deep ass movie. Jesus Christ.
Every time I hear about that movie, though, it always takes me back to the Seinfeld episode where like, you were making out during Schindler's List.
you're a psycho.
How dare you?
It's kind of funny because the first Wayne's World, it was like the biggest like video rental movie like of all time.
Right.
Like it just killed on VHS, and the sequel just like failed on both like the rental and the theatrical release front. It's very weird.
Plus they had to pay Aerosmith for this one.
Well, spoiler alert.
Walken.
I didn't freaking like this movie.
No, I didn't either.
June, take it away.
All right. Have you guys heard of the Aurora Rock Festival Waynestock? No? It's okay, no one has. Not even the bands playing it. But when Wayne is visited by Jim Morrison in a dream, he's told that if he books them, they will come. According to the law of music festivals, if a band is booked to play an event, they will magically appear. All Wayne has to do is set up the festival, get his leather-clad roadies lined up, convince the Parks and Recreation Permits Department, come up with $5,000, and save Cassandra from the clutches of evil producer Christopher Walken before he jinxes the band and breaks up Wayne and Cassandra and marries her. It's almost too easy. Discuss.
Have you guys ever heard of the Fire Festival?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we watched the documentary.
It is literally the plot to this movie.
100%.
It actually happened in real life.
The Fire Festival mimicked this
Yes.
plot.
They were like, just book it.
Yeah. No.
According to Jim Morrison,
Yeah.
they'll show up.
Book them and they will come is
Yeah.
literally what they said
They're
during
like,
the Fire Festival.
Just feed them vodka. They won't notice.
Yeah. It was, like I watched that documentary about how that whole thing like fell apart.
It's a fascinating.
It's a
documentary.
fascinating,
yeah.
fascinating documentary. But then like
Watch that instead of this.
no, but it's weird though because I watched that a couple weeks ago and it's been in my head ever since. And I'm like, man, that is a freaking crazy story.
That really
How could that
happened.
possibly happen? And then I watched this movie and I'm like, holy shit. It's literally the same thing.
Yes, some fucking goofball just decides, I'm going to put on
Yeah.
a festival. I'm sure it'll all work out.
Mike Myers out there freaking booking people he's actually never talked to. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Aerosmith and all these people. And I'm like, that's literally what happened. And the whole thing fell apart, which it did in this movie too.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was just
like the kind of the theme of this movie is Wayne's trying to figure out what to do with his life, and the whole point of putting on the concert is to give his life like meaning beyond like just the Wayne's World show, and yeah, it's an interesting little kind of like through line, I think.
And
Yeah.
flash forward to the end, which, spoiler, if you haven't watched it, we're going to talk about it. The whole point was that Jim Morrison wanted to let Wayne know that it didn't matter what he did, Cassandra would still love him. But she shouldn't.
no, absolutely
He's
not.
the worst.
He's
he
terrible.
Spies on her. She has great news about her career. And as soon as she's like, yeah, my producer is going to do this for me. And Wayne immediately
Gets
like
jealous.
fucking gaslights her. And he's like, oh, I'm so excited for you. And
He's
Bobby, he's the fucking worst boyfriend.
Yeah.
I also feel Christopher Walken was criminally underutilized in this movie.
Yeah.
There's only one good scene where like they tried to get him to say a sphincter says what, and he's like, oh, I see. You want me to say what? Like, I don't know what you're trying to do. And like Wayne and Garth are just like, whoa.
The dancing scene was the best
Oh
Christopher
yeah,
Walken
Christopher
scene.
Walken dancing. You have to
That
have
was
him
really
dancing.
It's really awkward.
was it? Well, Christopher Walken is like a professional dancer. Like he's trained. Every movie
Yeah,
there's
he dances in like every movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think it's in his contract sometimes. He literally
I'm
is
not
like
coming unless
it's
I
like
can
a
dance.
dance. He dances in every movie. He dances in Catch Me If You Can. He dances in Blast from the Past. Every movie he's in, he has a little dancing number. Even The Rundown with Dwayne Johnson.
Huh.
He's the bad guy in that movie. He dances in that movie. It's like
I love
completely out of
Christopher
nowhere.
Walken.
Walken's amazing. Have you guys seen The Seven Psychopaths? I think that's the movie.
I have not seen it.
I
no.
believe I have.
Walken's is freaking awesome in that
Yeah.
movie. I think Rockwell is in that too.
Well, it's
I've not
funny
seen it.
because of the success of the first movie, they got like way more like cameos in this movie from like big actors who were like, "Yeah, I want to be in another Wayne's World
The
movie."
dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, yeah.
That was not the same dinosaur. That was the freaking paper mache version.
It was another thing where I think like Jurassic Park had just come out when they were making this movie, and so like they had to like get a like Jurassic Park reference in there.
Yeah, it did kind of. It was weird though because I'm like I had my headphones in on and I was listening to it with full audio, and all of a sudden you hear like, and then the freaking roar, and he opens up the blind. You got the flashlight, and I was like, oh shit!
I like how the Mirthmobile just has like a drink dispenser that like you can put like a glass of water
Yeah,
up there.
they're really spending their money wisely.
I
knew
love
a
the
guy had-
Mirthmobile.
I knew a guy who had a Pacer once. They're terrible cars.
Is this what's the rating on this movie?
PG-13.
And they couldn't throw some boobs in this. Come
No,
on,
sir.
man.
It's not on PG-13.
No, sir. Not an SNL
They got
movie.
one. They got one F-bomb in it.
I'm not a fan of Aerosmith.
Really?
I'm
Oh,
not.
I love Aerosmith.
Aerosmith's probably one of the best concerts I ever been to.
Same.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm watching like I've seen this movie, or I haven't seen this movie. I watched this part, and I'm like, God, they're kind of over the top, aren't they? I was like,
Steven Tyler is like the best front man probably to ever live.
Yeah.
He's right up there, top 5 all time.
Steven
Really?
Tyler PJs. Steven Tyler PJs.
Anyway, I didn't like this movie, guys. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's not funny. Wayne is like the ultimate worst boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy in the entire movie.
Yeah.
He treats his girlfriend like shit. He's jealous. He's
She's
insecure.
gonna get deported if she doesn't keep this record deal, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Concept.
they keep switching where she came from because
Yeah.
in the first one she's from Cambodia.
Yeah.
And this one she's from Japan.
She was born in
yeah.
Kowloon Bay. Yeah, so she's gonna have to get deported if she doesn't keep this record contract, and he's just like, blow it off for Wayne stock.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't like the plot to it. I didn't like Wayne at all. I think he was more of a villain than a funny guy.
Where I felt the first movie was like a lot of funny stuff kind of put together for a movie. I felt like this movie was stuff that wasn't good enough to be in the first movie. You know what I mean? It's just like it was all this stuff kind of like randomly cut together.
So
It didn't and it felt really disjointed and didn't work. I did, however, like Naked Indian, weird Naked Indian guy.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny, you know. And you know,
So, like, did he really have to show you his
it's
crack?
I love the main roadie.
excessive. You know, that was kind of funny,
Yeah.
you know, but overall, I think the joke just kind of wore thin after a while.
It got grating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started grating
Yeah.
on you, and I was like, Jesus, I could not wait for this movie to be over.
Right.
So there's actually like a story behind the making of this movie, which explains like why it's not quite up to par as the first one. And that is that originally there was an entirely different script to this movie. And the original script for Wayne's World 2 had Wayne and Garth basically forming their own country and seceding from the U.S. after finding an ancient scroll. And this plot was basically lifted from a movie that Mike Myers grew up loving. It was a British comedy from 1949 called The Passport to Pimlico, something like that. and so like basically like he wrote this movie based off of like, you know, his love of this movie. And it was kind of like he took the plot of that movie and put Wayne and Garth in it. And they were well into like pre-production, like they were getting ready to shoot the movie when the studio executives at Paramount found out that Mike Myers had, you know, basically lifted the plot of this movie and they didn't have the rights to it.
Oh.
And so like Mike Myers got called into Sherry Lansing's office, who was the head of Paramount at the time. And funny enough, like she was there when I was working at Paramount. So like there was lots of talk about like how big of a, you know, bitch that Sherry Lansing could be. And so like she basically sat Mike Myers down and said, like, you just screwed us over with this like amateur hour bullshit. We've got a team of lawyers downstairs getting ready to take away your house, your car. We're going to ruin you.
What?
And Mike Myers like literally was
Oh
like,
God, I feel like that's karma.
pissing himself. And she was like, you go to Lorne Michaels' office, you lock yourself in that room and you don't come out until you have a script that we can start shooting in like 1 week. And so Mike Myers like literally like curled up in a fetal position and like cried for a bit. And then like, and then he got to work writing this script. And so this script was like just thrown together like right before production started, which is one of the
You can
reasons.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why it's like so all over the place. And it was like a last minute thing. But like, yeah, Mike Myers was so traumatized by that. He refused to work for Sherry Lansing or Paramount ever again.
Like I thought the trope about like the famous rock star coming to you in a dream and telling you how to like do something, it's clever and it's kind of funny and it has a little bit of, you know, Field of Dreams type thing, which is obviously what they were ripping off. But I'm like, it's funny on paper, like it could work, but for some reason with the way the humor style of Wayne's World, it just doesn't mesh with the storyline. And I couldn't wait for that. I was like, please, when's the credit gonna roll? I'm so done with this movie.
One thing I do like about both these movies, they're both about the right length. They're both like 92, 93 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if these movies were made today, they'd all be like 6 hours long and it would be brutal. So
There are two scenes in this movie that I find extremely funny. And the first scene is when Wayne meets Cassandra's father and they have the kung fu fight and they decide to switch to overdubbing so people don't have to read subtitles. And her father's voice is like, so like, you know, like deep and like resonant.
Very well, if that is your custom.
It was like really funny.
We're watching the scene right now where the two nerds go up
Yeah.
to
Bob Odenkirk.
I was gonna say, is that freaking Better Call Saul?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's Bob Odenkirk. There's so many different cameos in this movie.
I didn't
It's
recognize them
crazy.
the first time. I was just like, oh, okay, the two nerds. I must have been checked out with this movie early on because I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the kung fu scene though?
it was amusing. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it was like, okay, yeah.
It's like-
seen that scene in other movies before, and yeah, it was definitely a callback.
Well, I just love like James Hong, who's the actor who plays.
He's in every movie ever.
And like he's so old, like you can see like when he's doing his own kung fu movies, he's like so bad at it.
Oh God, his leg only goes like 2 feet off the ground. Is that?
He's the Seinfeld Party of Five, right? Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's tons of stuff.
And Wayne like rips his shirt off and he's like, like screaming and stuff like that. Like,
And then his shirt magically reappears during the fight.
and his jeans heal magically. Yeah, it's great. So I love that scene. I think that scene is extremely funny. And the next one that I really love is when they go to the gay bar and they start doing YMCA.
Yeah, that was funny.
You thought that was funny?
I did. But what was funny about it was they all immediately got in their positions and they all knew the choreography immediately. And I just thought it was clever.
Like they were all dressed in like the different outfits.
See, I thought that was like a real obvious setup. Like,
it was. It absolutely was.
It was like, that was forced. It felt forced and stupid to me.
That was, I just thought it was funny.
Okay.
Talk about obvious setups. Like there's a scene in this movie where they're like, hey, what's going on over here? And they're like, well, our job is to stack these boxes of chickens. And these guys' job is to walk back and forth every couple minutes with like a pane of glass.
Yeah.
And Wayne and Garth are like, I wonder if that's going to pay off later. And then like later on, like Wayne's car just like crashes through the watermelons, the chickens and the glass. And the guys who were working there is just like, our job here.
A little self-aware. That's clever. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just,
again, there's moments in this movie that are funny, but overall, I just found it really grating and kind of annoying, and I just wanted it to be done. I think I was Wayne's World out because I binge watched both movies at the same time, which I think probably was a mistake.
That's not a good idea.
There's too much Wayne's World.
And I wonder if it's like a first watch thing, because I'll say like I watched this one time when it came out and I've never watched it since.
Right.
And I hated it. But this time when I watched it, like almost 30 years later, it was funnier to me. I enjoyed it more this time than I did when it first came out. I think my expectations were so high for the sequel that it just disappointed on every level. And then when I watched it this time, I was like, that's just good fun.
Yeah.
Well, so you guys are going to give this one a 4.
We need to talk
Don't
about
spoil
the best character in this movie, which is the super roadie Del Preston.
Oh my God, he's the best.
Okay.
His voice is so melodic, I could fall asleep to it.
Didn't you think it was a trifle unnecessary to see the crack in the Indian's bottom?
And the first time they meet him, he's like sleeping upside down in his flat. And they're like, do you always sleep like that? And he's like, yeah, it's something I learned from Keith Richards, which is probably why Keith can't be killed by conventional weapons.
That guy belonged in Spinal Tap.
Yes.
Like he feels like he got ripped from Spinal Tap and put in this movie. I was watching it, I'm like, oh man, he would have been funny in that movie.
The best part is where he's talking about how like he has to get a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms or Ozzy won't go on stage. And so he's like, so I broke into the sweet shop.
I had to beat them to death with their own shoes.
But I've got those M&Ms.
Yeah, he's like, that's a story for another time.
But he keeps retelling the same story.
That's the thing. I think he was actually a poser. I think he didn't actually do those things because he only has one story. But he's like, oh, he's this super famous roadie and he roads with all these other bands.
Hey,
I think
Jim Morrison vouched for him.
I think it's bullshit. I think it's all bullshit.
Those are the stories every roadie tells.
Yeah, and it's also funny because as the movie goes along, he gets more and more unhinged. Like he's planning it like a military operation, and he's like, remember to fire in 3 bullet bursts. The brown M&M thing though, like that's actually from like Led Zeppelin, where they had it written into their contract that they would have like a bowl of M&Ms with all the brown M&Ms removed. And it wasn't because they were like prima donnas or anything, but they wanted to see like if the venue actually read the contract to make sure that like all the safety standards that they had put in the contract were fulfilled.
Clever.
And so like if they went someplace and they didn't have like the bowl with all the brown M&Ms removed, they know that they didn't read the contract and that all their stage equipment was in jeopardy. And
That's
so like
genius.
Yeah. Okay. See, I didn't know that. Like, I hear these stories all the time. It's a trope now in like the music industry. These hyper prima donna. Well, they made a joke about it in Spinal Tap. Like the sandwich bread's too small. Like it's a bit, right? They make fun of this stuff all the time.
That was based off the brown M&M thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was just a thing to like check the venue. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, and this one also has like one of the best cameos ever in a movie. Where like, so in the first one it was Alice Cooper, right? But in this one. Wayne stops at a gas station and he's like, "Can you tell me how to get to this place?" And like the actor who's playing the old man mechanic starts telling the story, and he's like really bad at it. And Wayne's just like, "Hey, could we get like a good actor in here?" And they bring in Charlton fucking Heston to come in, and he gives this like big monologue that puts Wayne in tears. It's so good.
And he's just like, his tears streaming down his face, and he's like, "Thank you."
That was clever.
Very clever.
As beautiful as Tia Carrere was in the first one, she is ethereal in this
she's
one.
smoking.
I don't know what she did. She just grew out her bangs or something. But in this one, she was a 10 in the first one, and she's like a 20 in this
Cranked
one.
it up to 11.
She cranked it up. She's so beautiful, and everything she wears is fucking fire.
Yeah. All that leather, like.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think it was putting in some work.
I was like, do I need leather? I think I need leather in my wardrobe.
I think you do.
Shut up, dude.
That would be great.
Talking about hot girls, Kim Basinger as
And Heather Locklear's in this?
Yeah, Heather Locklear, but Kim Basinger plays Honey Horney.
Honey Horny.
Or Miss Horny. And it was kind of funny because because of the slapdash nature of the script, Dana Carvey kept feeling like Garth was getting shortchanged on screen time. And so he would come in and he would put in little story bits for Garth to do. And this was like his big thing. And he actually called up Kim Basinger directly, and he was like, "Please do this role for me. You're the one I want to do it with." And Alec Baldwin had to read the script and be like, "You know what, this is pretty funny. You should do it." Before Kim Basinger agreed to do it. That's good. But yeah, we get Heather Locklear in this, we get Kim Basinger, and it's kind of funny because the whole plot is that Kim Basinger's character seduces Garth in order to get him to kill her husband.
So weird.
It is weird, but it strangely it works. And then we have Kevin Pollak as the guy with the albino eye.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember him.
And there's this great scene where they keep making eye references and pissing him off. And it eventually gets we'll take these contracts home and cross all the T's and dot the lowercase J's.
And everybody in the office freezes and looks at them.
Which is a bit that they did in Boston Powers with the mole.
Yes.
Mole.
We're gonna chop it up and make some guacamole with it. Dude, those movies are so much funnier than these ones.
Oh, I can't wait till we watch
Who
those
is
someday.
the actress that plays the Wayne lookalike?
You mean the Garth lookalike?
The Garth.
Or sorry, yeah, the Garth lookalike.
I forget her name.
Oh, I can't remember her name, but it was driving me crazy. I need to look it up.
There's a bit in this where they have to go to London, and they make a joke the freaking studio's not going to pay for us to go to London. I'm surprised they're not just going to hire a couple of extras. And then the next scene they cut, and it's
obvious extras.
It's an the airplane. Before they get there, the airplane on a wire is just floating by, and then they show up in there, and it's clearly extras. There's bad wigs, super skinny, awkwardly sized people, and they're supposed to be Garth and Wayne. It was goofy. That was a funny bit. I was like, okay, that's clever. That's very SNL style. Yeah. I like that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's a big Mike Myers thing. That's very much his humor. I also like the fact that Chris Farley got a bigger cameo in this movie than the first one.
He's the roadie dude.
Yeah, and he has that scene from
he's got the long hair. He's got the same blonde wig you have.
and there's that scene from Officer and Gentleman where Wayne just "You're worthless. What are you even doing here?" And he's like, "I got nowhere else to go."
Officer and a Gentleman.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of in the first Wayne's World, there was a scene where Wayne has to make this tearful speech, and he's like, "And I never learned to read." And Dishonor's "Is that true?" He's like, "Yes." Well, everything except the never learning to read part.
You guys are making me like this movie more.
It's funner. It's more funner. Yeah. It's more fun to talk about than it was to watch.
It is.
Yeah, it's probably one of those movies where you need to watch it with your friends.
Oh yeah,
have a few drinky drinks, and you know.
I agree.
Olivia Diabo. What do I know her from?
I don't know.
She's probably going to blow your mind when you see what she really looks like here in a second.
Oh, I know what it is. Okay.
What is it?
She was in Point of No Return. She was also in Conan the Destroyer.
What? Oh, she was the princess.
Yep.
She is fine. Yeah, I remember now.
Add Conan in there. Vader's like, yeah.
I know. She was the chick that was being protected by Wilt Chamberlain.
Okay.
At Bombata.
I'll have to find clips of that.
Princess who had to go get the horn thing.
I was I fucking know her from
I know, right?
something.
But man, where is she from?
I'm fresh out of shit to talk about with this movie. Do you
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, want to do final thoughts? Or what do you got?
Well, I was going to give this thing a 2, right? because it's not as good as the original Wayne's movie by far, but I guess it does kind of have its bits that are funny. The cameos are way off the rails in this one, way more than the first one, and it's just an extension of more Mike Myers, Wayne's World stuff. But I think the first movie is way more clever.
Yeah.
And this movie gets to be a little bit grating after a while. But I think I'll give it a 2.5, simply because it's not as good as the first one. But based on our conversation, I think I had more fun talking about it a little bit than I did actually watching this thing last night. So yeah, 2.5. I think I'm right there. So.
All right. Jude, is this a 5-star movie for you?
No, it's not. And R to the Icky, thank you. She was also the older sister in The Wonder Years. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another show that was before my time.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep this in the SNL movie realm. And the first one, I think, was just so successful in like financially and like comedically, and it was just a better story. This was thrown together half-assed, and I like hearing all of the behind the stuff makes me dislike it even more. The first time I saw it, I absolutely hated it. I thought it was funnier upon rewatch 30 years later than it was when it first came out. So for me, this is just very middle of the road. This is a 2.5 Christopher Walkens out of 5.
Oh man, she finally came to her senses.
I'm gonna have a reckoning.
Katish, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
Yeah, I can remember going to see this movie in the theater and being so excited because I loved the first movie so much, and walking out of the theater very disappointed that it didn't live up to like the standard that the first movie set, because it is a inferior sequel. Like it's definitely one of those things where the quality dropped off, and knowing the story behind like how it was put together, you know, it makes sense now, like why it wasn't as funny, because like not as much time and care and effort, and plus like Paramount kind of rushed this out. I think it came out like a year and a half after like the first one hit big, so it was a very rushed production time, and the care that the first one had, you could tell like just, you know, wasn't put into it. So like overall, like there are a lot of really good gags that work in this movie, and they still hold up. And I had a lot more fun rewatching it this time around than I have in the past. And I think that, like, you know, just revisiting it with you guys, the nostalgia goggles are on a little bit. But I would give it, normally I'd give it like a 2-star, but I'm going to give it like, you know, 3 brown M&Ms out of 5 for just the nostalgia value of it. Because I do think it holds up well, despite it being, you know, such an old comedy. But you can tell like there are little kernels of Mike Myers' genius in there that eventually translate into like, you know, the Austin Powers movies and stuff.
I'm really bummed out that he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
That really takes the wind out of my sails on this guy. Okay, so for me, I gave the first one 3. I'm going to give this one a 2. It's a star less, a little hokey, a little thrown together. The plot wasn't that great. I would say go watch the Fired Festival documentary.
Yeah.
That, just imagine
That's
that.
funnier.
That's funnier. And it's like real life Wayne's World 2. It's so crazy. So yeah, 2-star movie.
Instead of Aerosmith, you get Ja Rule.
Ja Rule.
I really want a donut now.
I do too.
Yeah.
What the hell? You guys want to go get donuts?
Dude, I really want a local Sam Makita's donuts, because that was like a legendary like Chicago hockey player that was based on.
Dude, what if we start a franchise here in Vegas for the Golden Knights Donut Shop?
I'm sure it's already done. They have official donuts.
Do they have official Golden Knights donuts?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an official Golden Knights and Raiders, everything in this town.
Everything. Yeah.
There was actually a great scene in this movie where they go up to the drive-thru at Makita's Donuts, and they have this thing where it's like, if we get your order wrong, the order's free. Yeah. And so they keep like kind of dropping out their voices like it's
Is
a
that
bad
why
intercom.
they did that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then like the guy who reads back the order gets it like perfect.
Yeah. I remember watching that, and I'm like, I didn't understand why they were doing it. But that was a pretty funny bit thinking about it.
What I look at when I see movies like this, with that scene in particular, is like the donuts are only 49 cents. What weird world is this?
But it's funny because like their routine after completing the day's show is to go to Makita's Donuts and get coffee and crawlers. And I'm like, hey, it's like us going to Grouchy John's and getting coffee.
Do you remember when we were all young enough to drink coffee at night?
Speak for yourself. I was up till midnight doing a watch party last night.
I did that at work the other day.
Drank coffee.
I had like a big old fat cup of coffee at like 10 o'clock at night.
Oh no.
I get off work at 11:30. I stared at the wall.
Yep.
I stared at the ceiling till 2 a.m. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
I had half a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock at night one time because I was going to a midnight show. And I was like, I need to be able to stay up for this show. I was up for 2 days.
2 days.
2 days. My body is a wonderland.
Man.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee after 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that was a fun 2 days.
All right, guys, that's it for Wayne's World 2. Stay tuned. The last one on our list today is So I'm Married. I almost said murdered again. So I Married an Axe Murderer. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Zang.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple iTunes, scroll down just a little bit and hit that 5-star rating button. We're trying to get 200 5-star ratings so that we can get accredited with Rotten Tomatoes. It helps us along that process. And if we get accredited with Rotten Tomatoes, we get access to all kinds of really cool stuff. We can get some press access to conventions and whatnot. We can also get some screeners from new movies that are coming out. So we'd really appreciate your help. If you're already listening to us on Apple iTunes, scroll down just a little bit. If you're not listening to us, if you're on Spotify or something, and you have an Apple product, head over to Apple iTunes on the App Store, and you can just real quick download it, hit that 5-star button, and help us out a whole ton. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, the next movie on our list is So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Good job.
Thank you. And we'll find out exactly why they overuse this ridiculous song that they have in this movie. God, it took me out every time. I hate this freaking movie. Go ahead, Jude. Take it away. What is this movie all about? I did not like this movie. I didn't like this movie at all. Go ahead.
1993, So I Married an Axe Murderer. Rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour, 33 minutes. This had a budget of $20 million. What do you think this brought into the box office?
$20 million bucks? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it made 42.
Vader?
33.
$11 million.
Ouch.
Did not do well.
Bombed, huh?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And this actually came out after the success of Wayne's World.
Yeah.
And, like, I always think of this as Mike Myers' first movie because I feel like for whatever reason, I saw this before Wayne's World, but like, in fact, it was his follow-up to Wayne's World. And it was a huge flop.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't help him with the cringy art house poem reading.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
So bad.
And like in researching this movie to do my synopsis, like apparently that's his only job. He is an art house poet. That is his profession.
Yeah, he's a slam poet.
Yes.
He gets paid to do that?
I doubt it, but that is his profession.
Wow. So bad.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Jude.
Ready?
Take it away. Yep.
Charlie Mackenzie's unlucky in love. After dating the unemployed mafia girl, the cat-thieving klepto, and the girl who smells like soup, he's terrified of marriage until he meets the perfect woman, Harriet, who's been just as unlucky in love as him. They decide to get married, but just as Charlie settles down with Miss Right, it turns out she's Mrs. X, the bride who kills all her husbands on their wedding nights. She's already killed her husbands Ivan Drago, Ralph the plumber, and the lounge singer Richard Cheese. Charlie and Harriet arrive at their honeymoon hideaway just before a storm knocks out the electricity. Harriet tells Charlie she needs to tell him something, and Charlie confesses he already knows. The two stumble about in the dark while trying to bring the truth to light. In a twist no one saw coming, it turns out Harriet's creepy sister Honey Bunny has been murdering the husbands, leaving Harriet to think she's been left on her wedding night all those times. Now Charlie has to survive his cleaver-carrying in-law while Harriet unpacks her feelings about all her husbands having been brutally murdered. Discuss.
I hate this movie.
I love this movie.
Buddy,
This is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Are you? Oh my God, dude.
This is a movie I just like keep on my iPad for flights.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I just rewatch it every time I'm on a flight because it doesn't matter if I fall asleep halfway through it.
Right.
The funniest thing is, so like Jude and I watch this movie often, and one time we were visiting my parents in Virginia, and we put this movie on, and my mom was like, "Oh my God, that movie's so stupid." And like, we're like, "Okay, Mom, you don't have to watch it." And then like, as she's like sitting there, like watching the movie with it, she's like laughing, having a good time. By the time the movie was over, my mom was like, "You know what? I don't think I've actually ever seen that movie." It was pretty good.
Yeah. Every time she would chuckle, we'd like look and be like, "I thought you hated this movie."
She's like, "I thought I did too."
This first watch for me.
Yeah, me too.
And,
Really?
I hated it. I did not like it.
I was not on
Table
board.
is like severely split
yeah,
today.
severely split. I did not enjoy this movie.
There's a schism
This
in the
movie-
podcast.
This movie made me question whether or not I was actually a Mike Myers fan.
Yeah.
Like I was watching, I'm like, Jesus Christ, he just does the same fucking bit every movie.
I want to. Was the big twist at the end supposed to be a mystery? Because I figured that out immediately.
The super creepy
The sister thing.
sister,
Yeah.
who was obviously the one who was murdering everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who
Obviously.
has actually played this exact character before?
So there's actually a story behind the making of this movie. A lot of people think that because of like, Mike Myers' involvement in it, that he was like the brainchild behind this film. But it was actually a movie that was written in 1987. It was originally supposed to be for Chevy Chase. It was a Chevy Chase vehicle. And basically, they'd been trying to get this movie made for a while. And after the success of Wayne's World 2, Mike Myers got attached to it. And him and a friend of his named Neil Malarkey went and spent like a month rewriting this film. And unfortunately, like the Writers Guild didn't allow them to put like their names as screenplay writers on this. So like it was attributed to the original writer of Robbie Fox. But like this movie was basically originally supposed to be more about like the paranoia of getting married. And the producer and the writer of this movie one day they were having lunch and they were just talking about like how all the women that they date are crazy and they think they're trying to kill them. And they're like, we should make a movie about that. And so in the original Chevy Chase version, he was supposed to like be like super paranoid about like, like this woman. It was supposed to be a little bit more of like a serious noir thing. And when Mike Myers came on board, he basically like rewrote the whole thing to make it like a lot funnier. And this is another situation where Mike Myers and the director butted heads constantly because like the director, didn't think that all of Mike Myers' ideas were all that great. And Mike Myers was like, you don't know anything about comedy. And this is also the first time Mike Myers actually played more than one character in his movie. And he based the Scottish father in this movie off of his own dad. And it's really funny because like if you watch the scene, especially like when he's with Anthony LaPaglia on the couch, and he's just going off about like hid pants now, like move your huge noggin. Like Anthony LaPaglia is visibly cracking up because like Mike Myers is just improvising this stuff, and like they had to use that scene where he's cracking up.
Oh yeah, he's laughing right now.
Yeah, because they can't, like this was the only take that they had of that. So like Anthony LaPaglia is just like losing his shit next to Mike Myers, and it's funny because in this scene, the father is talking about this like global like secret society that's made up of the Vatican, the Queen, and Colonel Sanders and his wee beady eyes.
It's very prophetic.
Yeah, and Mike Myers is making a new Netflix series based off of that, where like basically it's a reporter infiltrating the Penverent.
Oh yeah, I saw the commercial for that.
Pentaverant.
Yeah, the Pentaverant, and that's what the father in this movie is talking about, and that's what the basis of the new Mike Myers Netflix series is all about.
Brilliant.
The Meadows. Stuart is my favorite character in this.
He's
movie.
great.
Which one's Stuart?
The dad. Stuart.
Oh, okay, gotcha. He's
just like making fun of his like youngest son about like how big his head is.
He's just the skinny fat bastard. That's all it is. It's the same bit.
Well, it's based off Mike Myers' real dad.
Yeah, I get that, and that's fine. And this obviously came out before Austin Powers did. So, but it just like, I don't know, it kind of popped the bubble a little bit for me with Mike Myers because I thought like watching Austin Powers, like that was all so original and goofy and weird and off the wall. And then I go back in his career. I've never done this before. I've never watched his older movies. I'm like, that's all like the same stuff he's been doing over and over again.
It was stuff from like his SNL. If it's not Scottish, it's crap skits. You've seen those, right?
No.
Really? You need to see those.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of just popped the whole Mike Myers thing for me. I didn't like this movie. Some of the scenes were funny, but a lot of it was just kind of like it dragged on too long. Like it's that type of humor where like it's supposed to be like the longer it goes, the funnier it gets because it's like that absurd comedy. But for me, I'm just like, you could have cut it off like 10 minutes ago.
It's like I felt like it was weird because it was like a Mike Myers movie. They tried to like insert some SNL type stuff into it, but then it was also trying to be like
a romantic comedy.
A rom-com movie at the same time, and it took me out of it. It didn't feel like they meshed well.
That was pretty much the difference between the director and Mike Myers, where Mike Myers wanted to make it more of a comedy and the director just wasn't up to that, or he wanted to keep it like a little bit more with the original script. And that's one of the reasons they butted head. Also, Mike Myers, like 2 weeks before this movie started filming, he lost his father. And so like he was like in a bad emotional state, which made him like more difficult to work with. And I also think,
and then he had to do a bit where he was acting like his that's rough.
Yeah.
It was a rough time for him, but it brought forth some of what I think is some of his like funniest stuff. Like every time he's doing the impression of the dad, I lose it. Like, it's so funny.
That is good.
Yeah, he's got like the Scottish Wall of Fame that has Sean Connery on it and stuff like that. And then like one of Jude and mine's favorite scenes is at the wedding when the dad is singing "If You Want My Body," and
with the bagpipes,
and they do the bagpipe solo, and then the guy passes out. He's like,
We have a piper down. I repeat, a piper is down.
There's some good bits. There's a couple of gold moments in this that are funny. It's mostly because of the dad and his goofy just antics, but I don't know, dude. I wasn't into this movie. They overused that freaking theme song that they had. I guess it's like the only song they had access to because they played it for the credits, then they played it for the mantra, and then they played it
for a tampon commercial.
Yeah, seriously, it's a commercial out there somewhere. You guys have to find it. I remember seeing it.
There she goes. Be true to yourself with a birth control pill that gives you a high level of effectiveness.
I don't know, but anyway, I was over the song. I was over the bits. Some of the things were funny. I liked the relationship he had with his girlfriend, but he was kind of like freaked out. The little detective work. Oh, that's my favorite bit. Okay, I just reminded myself. So the cop, his best friend is the cop, and he's working in this police department.
Tony,
and his like boss comes over,
and
he's like, can you play it a little angrier? Be like the really angry police chief who comes in here and says, I've had it with your nonsense. I can't take it anymore. You're fired. Give me your badge and your gun. And they keep playing this bit up to where at the end of the movie, his father is actually yelling at him. Is it his dad?
No, it's not his dad. So basically, Anthony LaPaglia, who plays Tony, who's Mike Myers' best friend in this movie, he's obsessed with Serpico, and he's like a police officer. And so like every scene that he's in, he's like in a suit that Al Pacino wore in Serpico, a different version of it. And so like he wants his job to be more exciting, like it is in the movies, instead of just having to fill out paperwork.
Right.
And his police chief, or his lieutenant, who's played by Adam Arkin, he basically is like the super nice guy, and he's like very laid back and stuff like that. And Tony keeps trying to make him act like the tough like police chief from the movies. And eventually, in order to please like his employee, he starts acting like the over the top tough police guy.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene where like after he like gives him a chewing out, he's sitting there kind of like biting on his finger, trying to think like, was that good? Did that work?
Yeah, he came back for notes. He opens the door up again. He's like, did that work? Was that good? He's like, yeah, that was great,
was it
man.
too much?
Yeah, no, that worked perfectly.
Too many ethnic slurs.
that's the one that got me, dude. I started laughing out loud when he said that because he was making fun of him eating pasta or something.
Paisan.
Yeah, just show some freaking wet noodle up your ass or something like that.
Isn't he uncredited in this just because he wanted to be in this movie?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Uncredited.
That was my favorite bit in the movie, was the police officer and his chief, that whole relationship he had where they were trying to like mimic the old like noir cop movies or whatever.
I also
That bit
like
was really funny.
Charlie's mom keeps trying to make out with Tony. She's like molesting him.
She actually, I never caught it before this watch, but she says to Tony as they're leaving, "Give me a kiss and cheer me up."
Really?
Yeah.
and she's just like, "Oh, you're a right sexy bastard. When did you get so sexy?"
I was going to ask you guys, when did comedians start doing like multiple characters in a movie? Because I know Eddie Murphy's real famous for doing that. Mike Myers is real famous for doing that.
There's not a lot of comedians that could really do it well.
I think didn't Peter Sellers do that with Dr. Strangelove or something like that?
It's a skill.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Yeah, when did it become like a thing, though?
I think Eddie Murphy was the one who really popularized it, but
probably
Mike Myers was doing that around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was Meet the Clumps, I think, or the Nutty Professor.
Yeah, the Nutty Professor was
Coming to America. They did it.
Oh, that's
he
right.
did do it in Coming to America. Yeah,
you're right.
What year was that? Was that before this?
Oh,
That was
long
in the
before
80s.
before that. Okay, so Eddie Murphy was the first one to do it then.
No,
Well, not first, but like the first to popularize it.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. I got you. I was wondering because I was watching this. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know he did that before Austin Powers. And I guess.
Yeah, this is the first movie where Mike Myers played more than one role.
Okay.
And it works really well. Like they do a lot of like very obvious like split screen stuff.
Yeah. I thought they pulled it off fairly well though. Mm-hmm. It was never like super obvious that they were.
And the Nancy Travis character. So originally they were going to cast. What's her name from Basic Instinct? Sharon Stone, in this role. And Sharon Stone, you know, because of her Basic Instinct background, was going to be like, oh, she's obviously like an axe murderer type thing. Yeah. And they were going to play that up. But Sharon Stone was demanding to play both, you know, the Harriet character and the sister Rose.
Oh, that would have been fun.
And the studio kind of nixed that. And so like she backed out because she's like, well, if you're not going to give me what you want, I'm just going to go fuck off. and so like then they cast Nancy Travis in this, and Nancy Travis had never really done like much improv before, and so like Mike Myers actually worked with her to improv a lot of their scenes, and she got really comfortable doing comedy like through like Mike Myers' tutelage.
Yeah, I want to say she's very good in this. Like the whole romance between Charlie and Harriet is kind of uninteresting to me, but like just watching her, she's great in this. Like every time she slips between being fun loving and being very serious and kind of scary, it's super believable. Like when he breaks up with her and she's like, hi, like Charlie, and she's smiling and he's like, I think we should break up. And she immediately, her whole demeanor changes and she's like, why? And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, she is an ex-murderer.
Yeah. And it's done at the exact same location that they shoot the opening to Full House.
Full House. Yeah.
I did appreciate the tour of San Francisco throughout this movie. Pre-human feces everywhere on the streets. So that was a nice thing.
Way to bring it in, V. Thanks for that.
You want to talk about Vicky?
Yeah. We need to talk about Jude's favorite scene. Which
go for it.
The
Phil
tour of
Hartman.
Alcatraz.
Oh, he was a national treasure.
Go for it. Go ahead. Talk.
Yeah. That's all I've got to say. Like it's a tiny part in the movie, but it might be my favorite part in the whole movie.
So there's a scene where Tony and Charlie go to Alcatraz to take a tour, and Phil Hartman plays the tour guide, and his character's name is Vicky, and he's like very dead serious, and he talks about the story of like how Machine Gun Kelly ripped out a bitch's eyes and then pissed in the eye sockets, and at the same time, like Mike Myers is just trying to talk about like how much in love he is with Harriet.
And his friend Tony is like, like you don't talk over Vicky, and Vicky's just like giving him the eye.
Yeah, Phil Hartman's brilliant in this scene.
So many great cameos in this movie. Phil Hartman's my favorite.
You were talking a little bit ago about how what was the actress's name who wanted to
Nancy Travis?
No,
Sharon
Stone. She wanted this part. I think it would have been great if it was like twins. The two women were twins, and the twin was actually one.
That would have been a cool spin.
That would have been interesting, yeah. Because he would have been dealing with the nice version who he fell in love with, and then every once in a while, this like super creepy one would come in, and he wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but it would be the same. It would be two different people. Yeah. I think that would have been fun.
I think Amanda Plummer can never play a normal person.
She's just creepy looking.
She's the creepiest. Yeah.
Play to your strengths, man.
I kept on. The what's the girl's name? The main character,
Harriet.
Yeah, all I see is Tim Allen's wife.
Dude,
that's all I see. That's all I see.
I never watched that show.
Like I knew her face. I texted you guys.
It's weird, right?
I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I know her, but she's too young of a version. I know her older from somewhere else, and it was driving me insane. And finally, I just texted you guys. I'm like, who is this chick?
Well, it's funny because she was also on Becker, Nancy Travis, but you know, I know her from 3 Men and a Baby. Like that's where I remember her from.
Yeah.
So like you know, like when I was watching this thing, I was like, oh yeah, that's Nancy Travis, and you guys.
Last Man Standing. That's where I know her from. That show was freaking great.
It's a good show.
I love that show.
Still on.
Is it still going?
I mean, they play it all the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean like reruns?
It's not like it's an old show. It's just finished recently.
So there's a scene in this movie where Tony is trying to rush to the remote honeymoon location to save Charlie from the axe murderer, and it has my second favorite cameo ever, which is Stephen Wright as this pilot. And Stephen Wright's basically just being Stephen Wright in this scene, but like he's ad-libbing everything, and it's hilarious where he's talking about the artificial horizon, which is better than the actual horizon, and then like he falls asleep, and when he wakes up he tells Tony, he's like, I had a dream that I was born 8.5 months premature. The doctors were freaking out.
There's a couple of good bits in this. I love the one where he tries to commandeer the vehicle, and the guy's just
from Charles Grodin.
Yeah. Guy's just like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, it's funny because Tony keeps trying to do all like the standard cop tropes.
Yeah,
he's like commandeering the vehicle.
Well, he talks about that early on. It was a nice setup and payoff where he's like, man, I really wish I had like a circumstance where I could like commandeer a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like I just want to run up and be like, I'm commandeering this vehicle in the name of the law.
Yeah. And Charles Grodin's like, no. And he's like, can I please commandeer this vehicle? And Charles Grodin's like, no.
No.
And eventually, like, he just begs him for a ride.
I was going to say, didn't he end up getting a ride with him or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good
I
stuff.
happen to know for a fact that is it against the law for the police to commandeer a vehicle?
Yeah.
It's like, can I please use
Just
your
go
vehicle?
with you.
Let's talk
Is
about
that
this.
true? Can police not commandeer vehicles? What's the real story there?
I don't know.
Do police ever actually commandeer vehicles?
I can't imagine. I think that's a movie thing. I don't think that's real.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know either. What were you going to say?
Oh, let's talk about this expansive piece of real estate in San Francisco that Rose and Harriet share.
Her apartment?
Was it yeah. That's an amazing apartment.
Right?
Yeah. Did she say it used to be?
You know what it really needs? Large, oversized
poster of Atlantic City.
Yeah. And like there's a piece of every single one of her husbands in this place that that Rose fucking killed.
Yeah, so that's can we talk about why this chick doesn't know why her husbands are leaving her? Like, is she just completely clueless for the whole thing?
According to her, she's just been left. So she goes and gets married again? Bitch, you're still married.
Yeah. Well, are they declared dead though? They're declared dead, right?
Well,
so the marriage ends?
If they were declared dead, then she would know that they had been killed.
Right.
And she would have questions. She just thinks that all of her husbands have left her because Rose left her and I'm leaving you note. And it's signed it from her husband.
How long apart are her marriages? Because they're not that long.
Yeah.
She's not that old.
Yeah, she's not that old. She's been married like 6 times.
She gets the marriages annulled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did they say that in the movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so.
Seen this movie 1,000 times. I've never seen that.
I just thought it was funny. I mean, it's a movie, so it kind of just like shrugged it off, whatever. But I did think it was funny that like she would get married, her husband would leave her, and then she would move to a different city, and like 6 months later get married again.
Right.
So one of the gags in this movie is basically Charlie's mom believes that the Weekly World News is an actual like legitimate news source. And the Weekly World News reports on like, you know, Mrs. X who like kills her husbands on their wedding night. And Charlie kind of at first dismisses this, and then like he starts like defending the Weekly World News as being the news.
Yeah.
Throughout the as
like the tabloid grocery store magazines are actually real. Bat Boy and Pig Face or whatever the heck. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Baby gives birth to baby.
Yeah.
There's a scene in this movie where Harriet makes Charlie like a health shake and tries to get him to drink it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Jude's like, I feel like that's a scene between us that we've played out.
It's like, look, I made you this this smoothie. It's healthy for you. Here, have some. And he's like, no, I'm good. I don't want to
taste it.
Just try a little. She's like chasing him around the house. Yeah, I can see that.
Just yelled at him last night because I made curry and he took his bowl and immediately started seasoning it. And I was like, just taste it before you do that.
Dude.
And I'm like, can I just season my food, please?
I put hot sauce on everything. Like my wife will make this like 4-course meal. She'll come out with this like wonderful grilled chicken, whatever, and I'll immediately put hot sauce on it. And she's like, you son of a bitch.
With ketchup.
Like when we saw that scene, Jude's like, I feel like this is something I would do to you. I made you a health shake. Please drink it.
Yeah, I can totally see that. All right, any other bits you guys want to talk about for this movie?
I think this is a movie that like Jude and I quote constantly, just like with the hid move. No.
That's a huge noggin.
Oh, he's gonna be crying himself to sleep tonight on his huge pillow.
I just keep hearing fat bastard. I think Austin Powers ruined me for Mike Meyers. All right, let's do final thoughts.
Was real quick. Was the last part of the movie when they were at the hotel? Did it seem like a completely different kind of movie than the rest of the movie?
It seems like a ripoff of Back to the Future.
It just
How?
I felt like I was watching
the clock tower thing when they're hanging off the side of the building. Wasn't that this movie?
Okay.
I just felt like the whole thing of the movie changed. Like they switched from one kind of a movie to another. Like I don't know.
It was not as comedic at the end.
Yeah.
Although I love that scene where like Tony is interrogating Harriet and you hear Mike Myers screaming like outside as like the sister's trying to chop his hands off.
Let's just take this down a notch.
He's like,
Oh,
let's slow this down a minute. He's trying to
Can
act
you
like a
not
cop.
hear what's going on right
She's
now?
like, that's them.
Anyway, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
I'm gonna give it a rating of 2 stars.
Okay.
I did not enjoy this movie. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just means I didn't enjoy it. Just was not my kind of a movie. I felt like it was kind of all over the place. The humor, maybe I was Mike Meyered out by the time I watched this. Could be a little bit of effect of it. It didn't seem like it was consistent through the movie either. So yeah, just 2 stars.
2 stars.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, she is a creepy person.
Yeah.
Talking about the sister.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be cool, honey bunny. Jude, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
I love this movie. I would not say it's one of my all-time favorite movies, but it's a movie I can watch over and over again, and I can quote it, and I think it's really fun. I don't know that it's held up like laugh out loud funny, but for me, I still love it and enjoy it. So it's 3 dead husbands out of 5.
Okay. 3 out of 5. That's not bad. Kadish?
Jude's not joking when she says she can quote. Like when we watch this movie, she literally says every single line in this movie.
I'm so annoying to watch this.
But like, I love this movie. Again, this is a movie where no matter how many times I watch it, I find it funny. I love the characters in it. I love the scenario. Mike Myers is brilliant. The humor just always gets me, and I love it. Again, I'm going to have to give this 5 stars. It's a classic for me. It's something, it meets the standard where I can watch it and be entertained every single time.
Unscrunch your face, Alex.
I was like, fucking what?
Don't yuck his yum. It's his
No,
yum.
I'm not. I'm just like, he so rarely gives 5 stars out. Like, it's not as rare as Vader's, but he's very reserved with his 5-star movies.
And he
He's
gives
just been
two out of
fucking
3 today.
throwing them out this week.
I mean, my
Subpar
standard,
Mike Myers
my
movies.
standard for a 5-star movie is no matter how many times I watch it, I'm entertained, and it never gets old. And Wayne's World and So I Married an Axe Murderer fall into that category for me.
Okay.
This is also a guy who thinks Spaceballs is the best Mel Brooks movie ever made.
That's because it is.
I don't even know how to follow that. It's middle of the road for me. It's not bad. I think I was Mike Meyered out by this point.
Yeah.
This is the last movie I watched this week, and I was kind of like, okay, I know this came out before Austin Powers, but I can't help. I think there's something's broken in my brain where I can't separate Mike Myers from Austin Powers. And
That was the whole point of this week.
And I know. And when he does these bits in these Scottish accents and stuff, and I'm like, oh, it's just fat bastard. Okay, he's just doing the same shit over and over and over again. And it's very much a Mike Myers thing. I don't not like Mike Myers, but this week kind of tarnished him a little bit for me. I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm actually as big a fan of him as I thought I was.
Well, you said you are a Mike Myers fan.
I was going into this, yeah.
I don't think I've ever considered myself a fan of Mike Myers. Like, I love Wayne's World and I love this movie, and he happens to be in them. But like, and I love Austin Powers, but like, talk about something that gets grating after a while. But like, if I see a new movie that's coming out that it's like a Mike Myers movie, for me, I'm never like, ooh, it's a Mike Myers movie, we should go see it. I think I err on the side of, ooh, that probably sucks.
See, here's the rose-colored glasses I had for Mike Myers this week. Like before I had watched these movies, I knew he was coming back to do that Netflix show or whatever that we just talked about a minute ago. I was stoked. I was like, yes, Mike Myers is back. Hell yeah, man. It's been too long. I haven't seen a Mike Myers movie in forever. I know his career kind of took a shit after the freaking Love Guru thing. And it's kind of like he's been like on a hiatus since then. I was super excited to see him coming back into the limelight and like have his own show again. I was like, hell yeah, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch it. And then I watched these movies and I was like, oh. Like, am I not excited anymore?
The opposite of that.
Really?
I feel, I think that if I had heard that Mike Myers was coming out with a show, I would probably be very disinterested. But now that I know that it's what it is, because it's based off of something from this movie, which is a movie that I love, I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think Mike Myers is actually a really funny guy. You know, he's very influential in everything that he's done. You know, he did take a really hard hit with The Love Guru, and I am so glad we didn't have to watch that pile of shit this week. But you know, he does things like, did you ever watch that resurgence of the Gong Show that came out or whatever a few years ago, where he was the host, but nobody knew it was him?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And
I don't
he was
think I
like
ever watched
in
it, but I know what you're talking
full
about.
body prosthetics, and you're watching the show and you're like, that's Mike Myers, and they didn't let it out for a while, and you're like, it was so funny and it was so weird, and you're like, what is going on? That guy is Mike Myers, and it turns out it really was Mike Myers playing a new character.
That's funny.
But you know, that kind of stuff I love about Mike.
He's
Myers.
very talented.
He's an extremely talented guy, and it's just I hate it when I hear things like he's hard to work with and that kind of stuff.
That bumps
So
me out.
it kind of tarnished him a little bit this week. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for that, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Mr. 5-star.
Freaking
It's just
You get a 5-star, and you get a
Yeah,
5-star.
really.
everybody gets a 5-star.
You know what Mike Myers' best cameo ever is? Inglourious Bastards. He was in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
I don't remember.
He was
that.
Yeah, he was the general.
He was a British general who gave Michael Fassbender his mission to go to that bar. And I remember watching that movie, and I was like, freaking Mike Myers is in
and
this
he
movie.
does do some weird little obscure things. Like he was in that Queen movie, a Bohemian Rhapsody movie too.
Was he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was the record producer.
With
that
Rami
fucked him
Malek?
up. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was also in Studio 52, 51, something like that.
54.
54, yeah. And he played like the gay club owner guy.
Oh, interesting. Cool. No, I did not know he was in.
He's actually a really good actor.
Oh, he's very good. He's very talented. I'm kind of bummed that he's
Apparently, he's a dick.
apparently.
Well, you know,
I hope he's not anymore. Maybe he was back then.
You need to go home and watch Austin Powers and just cleanse your.
Put the glasses back on.
baby.
I haven't watched Austin Powers in a long time. I wonder if I still like it.
It'll make you horny, baby.
The Spy Who Shagged Me and Goldmember are the best ones, I think, by
I
far.
love the fembots.
Fembots are great.
Classic.
All right, is that everybody's good? I'm going to give it 2.5, middle of the road, 2.5 star.
All
It's
right.
not bad. It's not my favorite, but it was fun.
Right on.
So yeah, that's it for our podcast this week.
And we are all over the place with these scores.
Bouncing all over.
2 to 5.
Well, the table's split, man.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
we're on one side, they're on in the fucking cloud somewhere.
wherever they go.
Wherever you guys are.
Whatever.
Fucking smoking some whatever.
Drinking
You
too
can't
many-
hit the bottom. Beat the hell out of the sides on the way down.
hitting those gummy bears too hard to see.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. Vader, where can they find you on the socials, bud?
You can find me at MattVader74 on all the social things. Twitter mostly, YouTube, Instagram. Here on our channel, right here every Saturday morning with Mr. Kadish and friends talking about Star Trek. And yeah, that's me. That's where we're at.
Right on. And Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and on TikTok. And you can find me on our Discord doing trivia once a month with our club members.
Speaking of Discord, guys, we have 180 members in our Discord app. We're trying to reach the goal of 200. So head over to saltynerddiscord.com and sign up. If we can get 200 members in there, that'd be awesome. We'd love the more the merrier.
Free.
It's free. It's tons of fun. The community there is amazing. We do watch parties and all kinds of really fun stuff. So yeah, head over there.
It's not one of those things where you join up and we're like trying to convince you to buy stuff. We just want to hang out with you.
Yeah, no, we just hang out. And
But
do
you
shit.
can buy stuff if you
It's
want.
like people just do stuff because they get paid to do it, man.
Oh, God,
It's really sad.
It's so sad. All right, Kadish, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter. KadishBooks.com takes you to my Amazon page. And, I hope you guys enjoy Mike Myers movies as much as I do. So have a good one.
Excellent. And thank you all for watching this podcast.
Drinks.
Our audio
Whoa.
listeners are like, why is he mumbling? So just a reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, you guys can catch us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, anywhere where you might get audio podcasts from. We are available across the board. So if you're doing a long drive or something like that, and you don't have the access to watch a YouTube video, you can check us out on Spotify or iTunes. So we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you guys so much for your support. Comment below what your favorite Mike Myers movie is, and we'll catch you next week. Stay salty.